Alright everybody, what is going on? Today my tutorial is going to be on getting your applications, presumably, I don't know why I said assumably, presumably your applications that are newer, that you're just now starting, to get, to be able to run on ARMv6. What's ARMv6? ARMv6 is anything built before the, I want to say, iPhone 3GS and iPad 1. It might be iPhone 4 and iPad 1. Either way, there's ARMv6 iOS devices and there's ARMv7 ones. And you'll notice that in Xcode, running them on ARMv6 is actually hard. Like, it's not really, I don't know, it's not really, I guess, obvious how to do it. And moreover, if you're pushing your app into production on the App Store or, you know, ad hoc or however you want to do it, the issue that you run into is if you don't set this up like this now, your apps won't be able to be ran on older devices by default. So like iPod 2G, iPod 3G, iPhone 3G, maybe iPhone 3GS, I'm not quite sure. Regardless, they won't be able to be ran. So I like to update my apps and keep them so that they can run on, you know, all new devices, of course, and new firmwares, but also run all the way back to iOS 4.2. Now, why do I pick 4.2? Well, because that allows me to encompass the iPod 2G as well as iPhone 3G into users who would like to be able to use my app. And so you need to go the newest possible firmware on an iPhone 3G or iPod Touch 2G is 4.2.1, and so the newest, or like the farthest back I usually go is 4.2. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then I'm also going to integrate a video taken from my iPhone that actually will show it running on the device. That way, you know, there's proof that I'm not just making all this up. So first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to your project settings. So in project settings, it's just, you know, this button, and you click on your project. You'll see iOS deployment target, and you have to bring that down to 4.2. And this really doesn't actually do anything other than let your app go down, unless you really have a complicated app, and if you do, you've already set methods and, you know, of detection to see if the app is lower than 4.2. So that's not a problem. So I go down to 4.2, then you're going to click targets and bring it down to 4.2 also. Now, you know, obviously, this is kind of just a test app. I don't really have anything set up other than that it runs. And so, you know, that's all. So now, also, while you're in the Targets tab, click the Info tab. And you'll see that it says, you know, blah, 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 requires iPhone environment. Yeah, and you'll see required device capabilities. So if you click that, it says item 0, ARMv7. So you can actually just delete this whole little, it's actually like a row in the plist file if you know what that is. If you don't worry about it. So now I'm going to run the app just on the simulator, and you'll see build failed. And so the reason for this is because, especially if you've written a lot of code, even if you have a small amount of code, iOS with ARC, which is, you know, it's memory management basically, does not actually support strong and weak beyond iOS 4.2. And so where I synthesize my delegate and it says it does not support automatic weak references, that's an easy fix. You just go, so this is in view controller. So I'm going to go in flipside viewcontroller.h, and right here in the property, you'll see that it says weak, non-atomic, id, blah, blah, blah. You know, you don't need to know what that means. But right here where it says weak, you just change that to unsafe, unretained. And so it means that, you know, the memory doesn't need to hold on to it longer than it is being used. So that's it. Now I'm just going to run it just to make sure there's no errors. Alright, sure enough. So now, alright. So it's not an app that really does anything. Now I'm going to go to iPod Touch and just curiously see if it runs. And look, it says it runs, finished running settings on iPod Touch, but actually it doesn't really run. It just runs and then it just blah blah and it freaks out. And this is because you're actually missing some settings. So when you go here where it says architectures and it says standard ARMv7, you actually are going to hit other and you're going to type ARMv6 and just hit enter. And then you'll exit out of that and it'll change it to like Arch standard 32-bit ARMv6 like blah 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 blah. And so you want to check in settings test to make sure that's still the case. Alright, now go back to the info, make sure everything's all good. Go back to the info, make sure it does not require ARMv7, and we'll try it again. And if you look here, I'm going to start this video on my iPod Touch or on my iPhone so I can record this working. So this is the video. It's working, and the application is actually running on the iPhone or on the iPod Touch. So I don't know. It doesn't really. I don't even remember what this app does. Oh yeah, it changes. So it uses NS user defaults. It was kind of just a test, but basically. So that wasn't really too long of a video. It was kind of shaky, but that just shows all the things that you need to do. If you didn't know exactly what to do, it would kind of be a little bit overwhelming actually. And so lastly, I'm just going to prove that my iPhone or that the iPod I was testing on was an iPod Touch 2G. Go away. Craig Shopper pulls up anyway, it doesn't matter. So here's iPod Touch. So this is the one. Okay. Alright, so here's iPod Touch, and you'll look here, 8 gig iPod Touch 2G, which is an ARMv6 device, and that's really it. Otherwise it wouldn't have run if I hadn't enabled these settings. If you have any questions, let me know. Any questions based on what I did, changing the deployment target, changing the info to not restrict it to ARMv7 devices, changing the code to remove weak, changing the last thing, I guess, the build settings to accept the ARMv6 architecture. So ask any questions you might have, comments, problems. That's it. Peace.